You're listening to AchtungMillwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to AchtungMillwall. My name is Nick Hart. You're listening to some Monday afternoon mundanity, really, after that 1-1 draw on Saturday. Millwall 1, Preston North End 1. You are listening to the voicemail show. A big thank you to all of our voicemail contributors following Saturday's tasteless, rather bland kind of draw in the end. Funny game in many ways. I think I said on the other show that I left the den feeling like we'd suffered a defeat when we hadn't. It's a point closer to the magical 50-point survival mark for me, which is probably going to be the aim of the season now, dear listeners. But we do have a range of voicemails submitted by our regular cohort of contributors. Big thank you to everyone for sending stuff in. If you want to join that cohort of contributors, do give me a shout on X. You can direct message me your voicemail thoughts after any game. Send them in. Just press the direct message button and there's a little voice tab in the corner, and well, basically speak and it will come through to me. Or if you've got my WhatsApp number, WhatsApp me, man. You know, I mean, it's good to hear from you, dear listeners. Always good to hear from you. But before we get into the meat of today's sandwich, let's have our regular pundit games questions on this occasion. Got two for you. Pundit Games is the #1 ultimate football quiz trivia game. I know we're past Christmas now, but you got birthdays and you got social events coming up for the season ahead, dear listeners. And there's no better way to please the football head in your life by giving him or her a copy of Pundits, which is a board game. You score goals against your opponent by answering football trivia questions. And I've given you a little taster so far since we formed our association with Pundits. Every time they sell a game, a donation is made to the Lions Food Hub, so it's a fantastic way to help contribute to a fantastic cause. So just to give you a little taste of the kinds of questions you'll face in Pundit, I've got two. One's a Football League question, which can be quite a tough genre, dear listeners. Anyway, this is a championship player, a championship specialist as they put it here. This huge frontman was lethal in the air, as Brighton and Crystal Palace fans will testify. He now works as a pundit for Sky and held the record for most championship goals scored in one season during his time at Selhurst Park. This has been since passed by Ivan Toney and Alexander Mitrovic. 30 goals for Crystal Palace, basically scored in 2012-13, played for Brighton as well, now working as a Sky TV pundit. The second question, and we'll give both of the answers to these questions at the end of today's show, dear listeners. Second question, though, is an England Premier League 1990s question. Are you from the 1990s? Are you a 90s kid, dear listener? See if you remember this question. A legend on Tyneside, a former captain of the Toon Army with 10 years service to the club. After moving to Newcastle from Charlton, he amassed over 300 appearances, notching 44 goals throughout his time at St James's Park. He was a member of the PFA Team of the Year 95-96, and he was also made captain by Kenny Dalglish after Kevin Keegan's shock departure. And incidentally, just for a point of interest, this is the PFA Team of the Year Premier League 95-96. Got David James in goal. David James in goal. Tony Adams and Hugo Ehiog in the central defensive positions. Gary Neville and Alan Wright on either side. Alan Wright's a bit of a forgotten name, isn't he? Ruud Gullit in midfield alongside Mr. X, the question answer today, question mark. Either side of them, David Ginola, Steve Stone, and up front, Les Ferdinand and Alan Shearer. Now I'll make that a decent 11. So yeah, Charlton player, moved to Newcastle, and huge success up there. We'll give you the answer to both of those questions if you haven't got them already. I bet you have, haven't you? I know you've got them already. We'll give you the answers at the end of today's show. So back to Saturday's 1-1 draw with Preston. Millwall lineup: Sarkic in goal. Defence: Joe Bryan, Jake Cooper, Wes Harding, Jeff Tanganga, Billy Mitchell, George Honeyman. Then in front of them, Ryan Longman, Kevin Nisbet playing in a kind of a wider role than we've seen previously, to whatever level of success you want to pick out. Brooke Norton-Cuffy, and in a more striking central role, Zian Fleming, scorer of that 5th-minute opener that gave us all a big boost of optimism, only to be cancelled out by the equaliser. I think it was in the 33rd minute for Preston, and at times, especially at the end of the first half, the Lions were rather clinging on for grim death, dear listeners. So let's begin today's array of messages. Let's start off with the gap. I've nicked this off of Millwall Television. So let's have a quick listen to Joe Edwards' reaction after the full-time Saturday.
I think a common pattern at the moment is we've been starting well at home, and we did exactly that again today. And you know, for once, got the reward for it early on. Really early goal, so perfect start. You could see early on in the game, they're obviously a team that's been in a bit of a difficult run, and they come here quite happy to try and stifle us, to stop any momentum. You know, they would have been watching us at home and seeing how we started the Borough and Leicester games and picking up early speed and momentum in what we were doing, and they definitely came to try and kill that. So it looked like a massive positive that we got the first goal, and after that we were pretty settled without creating loads, which is clear at the moment. We need, when we get in and around the final third, we either need to hold the ball up better, or we just need that little bit of creativity and magic on more occasions.
Creativity and magic indeed, Joe. Yeah, they're expensive properties to find in at Championship level, aren't they? I noticed actually just before I started recording this, dear listeners, Ipswich have made a move for the Wimbledon prospect Al Hamadi. I believe his name is Ali Al Hamadi. I did see him. I went to as Aaron's guest season ago. He was playing for AFC Wimbledon in their new stadium. The first time I've been over there. And he looked like a decent player, so clearly Ipswich have seen enough in him to make that signing. We are still 2 days shy of the end of the transfer window, so let's wait and see what moves Millwall can make. I did notice, of course, James Berylson was over for the renaming ceremony. Fantastic work again, we'll say it again, by the club and by the Millwall Supporters Club, working with Lewisham Council and Southwark Council to rename Zampa Road into John Berylson Way, so well done everybody for that. But James Berylson was over for that ceremony, and will undoubtedly have been talking to Joe Edwards after the game and the recruitment team about the need to find, as Joe's put it there, creativity and magic. There was little of that on display on Saturday. It was an improved performance. Let's not get too down in the dumps, and it was a draw. To arrest a recent slide in form after some pretty poor performances of late, but it wasn't very inspiring overall, and I must admit I left the Den feeling perhaps unreasonably, if I'm honest with myself, unreasonably downbeat, because it wasn't that bad a performance, but it just wasn't magical and creative, as Joe's put it there. Any road, let's have a listen now to our first contribution. Let's go with Lawrence Binney. First up is Lawrence.
All right, Nick. Lovely to talk to you again, mate. Yeah, just been to Millwall 1 and Preston 1, and feel like I should talk maybe in the present and past tense here, and say that when I left the ground actually angry for the first time in a good while. Not frustrated, not sad, not disappointed, not even resigned, angry, because I feel like Preston were there for the beating today, and we were not on it. I feel like the application was there, but the quality certainly wasn't. So those opening 30 minutes, not quite as fluent as Borough, for example. We completely controlled the game, and we didn't look in any danger. And there's that man, I think, along with Kevin Nisbet, who is the talk of the town for maybe all the wrong reasons at the moment. Completely abdicated his post, and they're actually not even a winger. Midfielder Brad Potts, who is not renowned for his goal scoring, has all the freedom of South London to drill that across goal, and maybe it goes in with a contribution from one of our players, but it's probably his goal. I think what really angers me here, aside from the individual errors, which I feel like is Joe Bryan's responsibility, the defence's collective responsibility, but also like some of Joe Edwards' responsibility. For all of Murray Wallace's faults, he is in position most of the time. Yeah, he gets skinned quite a lot by pacing wingers, but I didn't see that Preston had any sort of presence down that right, which would have caused him any problems. And yet we have Joe Bryan out of position, and suddenly we're 1-1 when we've been controlling the game. I think what really angers me, aside from that, is our response to the goal, where we lose composure. And I think part of the problem here is that we don't have any leaders in the team at the moment. Or maybe we have leaders, but leaders who aren't sort of meeting the task. And that's very disappointing. We had a midfield two of George Honeyman and Billy Mitchell, who I feel like have their own qualities, but are not certainly ball movers and ball carriers in the way that I feel like when Casper Denor came on today, really showed us what we were missing. A calm presence on the ball, gave us that control that we needed. So that makes me angry. It makes me angry that our heads dropped after the goal, which I feel like is something this team really, really needs to learn to deal with. I know there's a lot of chopping and changing, so it's not the same starting line-up every week, but we do need to learn how to react in the face of adversity. There's a famous Carlo Ancelotti quote, I think, where he says, to win you need to suffer. It's a very Italian mentality, I think, a very defensive one. I think it's true. In games you are going to suffer. You're going to have periods where you don't have control, and it really is how you deal with that. And I feel like when we suffer at the moment, we really suffer, and we don't look like bouncing back unless there's a wholesale change, either a half time or maybe lots of subs, and that's something we've got to deal with. A lot of people are going to talk about ref today, who I feel like was certainly a bit of a job's worth, and maybe let some things go that we aren't happy with. But if I'm being honest, most of the decisions our players aren't complaining about. The ones that the crowd are getting really angry about, players aren't complaining. So I feel like the crowd are maybe using the ref a little bit as a fallback here to divert their anger away, from what really matters, which is maybe some kind of a lack of cohesion in the team at the moment. That's to be expected. New manager, or some players coming back. We don't know what our strongest first 11 is yet, but I assume that the side we finished with is probably our strongest 11. Kevin Nisbet again. I feel sorry for the bloke, honestly. Like we don't really have much up front, and he's got to start Kevin because Michael Obafemi is not fit yet. But he's really finding it difficult at the moment. I felt like actually he did look a little bit better than he did against QPR and recently against Borough and Leicester, but he's still not showing enough for me, and he should have been subbed off earlier. Fleming again, I feel like he's maybe showing one good game every 3 at the moment, which I feel like is an improvement from early in the season. I feel like he had a good game today. I don't think he deserved the man of the match. I would have definitely given that to Brigg Norton-Cuffy, who is our best player and should definitely win our Player of the Year. But should have got the 3 points. Preston were a poor side, but give them credit. They're very negative, but they did defend well. We didn't really have an answer to that. So it's a non-linear progression, isn't it? We could have easily lost it at the end. We didn't. We got the draw, but improvements to be made. All right, cheers, Nick. Thank you.
Big thank you, Lawrence. Incidentally, listeners, I love a quote, and anyone that wants to ring in with a message quoting a football intellectual, perhaps Carlo Ancelotti, is going to go down a storm with me. So just a little word to the wise there. So big thank you for Lawrence for pandering to my intellectual pretensions there. The Kevin Nisbet question. I felt sorry for him on Saturday, Lawrence, to be honest, because I do think he's an okay finisher. I think he's a decent player, but I think he's probably best suited. He would have been suited to the Neil Harris big man, small man format. You know, the Steve Morrison and maybe Kevin Nisbet, if that had still been, or some figure like that. He doesn't really fit into being the sole point of attack. When we saw a little bit of Michael Obafemi, the new loan signing, I should say, towards the end of the game, the pace was evident, and his footballing nous was evident in a way that we've just not seen from Kevin Nisbet. He had a chance, with two things. He had a chance where he was almost like back to goal and he was trying to hook it from the wrong way round, so to speak, in the second half, and that went wide. It was unlucky there. But another incident, I mentioned this on the other show, where Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who you rightly point out plays well, Lawrence, put a really, really dangerous ball into the 6-yard box, and you wanted Kevin Nisbet to be following in on that, to be a couple of yards forward, and he was just out of it, and it skidded across the 6-yard box with no one in attendance. And unfortunately, football's a ruthless business, and although I do think there's a player in Kevin Nisbet, I can see how the lack of confidence is going to weigh him down, because he must know he doesn't really fit into Joe Edwards' style of football, and I think that must be a gnawing drag on his confidence. A lot of good stuff in that message there from Lawrence. A big thank you, mate. I appreciate that one. Let's have a listen now to John Rankin. Have a listen to John's message.
Hi listeners, hi Nick. John Rankin just calling in after the 1-1 draw at the Den against Preston North End. My sort of reaction to the game is very much like Middlesbrough, really, although we didn't get beat. We drew 1-1. But the first period of the game, I was very impressed. I was impressed with the new signing, Tanganga, because he picked the ball up and he pushed into space, which I like to see defenders do, rather than our existing defenders who kind of go forward a bit and then want to get shot at the ball completely. He ran with the ball and occupied the space over the halfway line, found Brooke Norton-Cuffy, who crossed it in for Zian Fleming to nod in a beautiful header. And we played really well. We was playing good football, possession-based football, playing well, and scored a lovely goal. And then, I was reflecting when I went down to get a cup of tea at half-time. I thought, our goals have to be really hard worked for, and the goals we let in are just given away. We work our bollocks off to try and get something out of a game, and then we just give away weak goals. And again, I'm not going to call any players out, because I got a bit fed up last week with myself, sort of, being negative and saying it was a shit show and, what a bunch of cunts and all this. I thought, well, let's not go down that avenue. It's not good for my health. It's not good for anyone, really, to really sort of lay into people. But look, down that left-hand side, we seem to have a problem defensively. And they had a problem down their left-hand side. It's funny, really. Is there something about left-footed full-backs and left-footed wing-backs where they're a scarce commodity? But with our defence, I don't hear that strong voice marshalling people. And a leader has got to emerge soon. I don't think it's going to be Big Jake. I think he's a totemic player for us. He's got a good reputation with other clubs, and he's a good club servant. But it's got to be someone. We need a terrier in there. Maybe one of the CDMs who's playing very deep. Ryan Leonard, I don't know, but someone's got to take charge and just make sure that we're standing men up, and we're men marking and not ball watching. And then when it comes to the one-on-one challenge, that's when you watch the ball and you put your foot in. The second half came round, so obviously we gave away that first goal. The second half came round and we started reverting to norm, really, not winning the second ball, not challenging, being knocked off the ball, and it became a painful watch. And I think that despite all of our huffing and puffing, I couldn't see it, but I'm being told that they could have nicked it right at the last minute. And, how many times have I said to my son, how many times have we sat in the cold blow lane and watching it? We can't really see what's going down there that well, and all of a sudden the opposition crowd go up and, 93rd minute, we take a sucker punch. So that didn't happen. We came away 1-1. it's a work in progress. You know, I've got to say, well, the referee was absolutely appalling today. There's an old saying in football, you don't notice the best referees. And I certainly noticed him. It was all about him, wasn't it? You know, little showboating twat. Total cunt, really, to be honest with you. He wanted to give us nothing. And I thought the crowd played well. You know, we got behind the club, got behind the team. We went to the John Berylson unveiling before the game. That was a nice thing to see and bear witness to. And what can you say? You know, it's Millwall, right? We are what we are and we do what we do. I think there's potential there. Obviously, QPR was a shower of shit and one to be forgotten about. But, you know, we've just got to try and get more than a 20-minute performance out of players. We've got to get a bit of mental toughness, and what we've got to do is get a bit of resilience, because we seem to, as soon as we let a goal in, our heads drop. And, you know, hey, come on, you know, we got to start sorting that out, because it's all about taking the punches in life, isn't it, and moving through and keeping going. So anyway, wish you all the best. Have a nice weekend. Come on, you Lions.
Terrific stuff by John there. Yeah, the leadership issue, I think, for me, is tied in with the abilities of the players that we have. You know, this is not a squad, I think, that Joe Edwards would pick. He's stuck with it for the moment to some extent. We're trying to make changes, albeit on a temporary basis, by exploiting the loan market. So we bring in higher quality players than we certainly could expect to afford ordinarily. But they are obviously short-term, you know, get out of jail free cards. So hence Michael Obafemi and Tanganga, who I was also impressed with, especially with that run forwards for that really quite terrific goal that we scored to open proceedings. I must admit, I thought we were in for a bit of a treat on Saturday, a very welcome treat it would have been. But it was a good run forwards that created the situation, enabled Brooke Norton-Cuff, who we've mentioned already, to combine with George Honeyman, who's a decent player. And there's a great cross, a danger cross, the kind of cross we don't see too much of. And getting forward for a change, we had men in the box. This time, Zian Fleming, who buried it with authority from close range. And it was a really nice start to the game. And I thought, here we go, we're going to be on for, you know, as I said, a bit of a, you know, a field day. But we do fade, as John says. And I think the problem really is, if it's a problem, that Joe Edwards' bar is being set quite high. He's come from an environment with Chelsea and Everton and also the English national side, where he's playing with high quality players, and, you know, played at his very best. The style that he's aiming for has to be sustained over 90. You can probably only do that with top draw players, and we're asking, you know, kind of we're asking second-hand vehicles bought from a dealer on the back streets to compete in a Formula One race. Really, I suppose I don't know if that's a decent analogy, but it's hard to keep the engine running for 90 minutes. I think that's the origin of this fading business. That can only be solved by making adjustments to the squad. That will take time. We have to get to the safety point for the season, and then we can start to see perhaps what changes can be made in terms of youth players coming through, and then whatever magic can be woven across the summertime, and begin the process. And I think it will be probably a slowish process of building a squad capable of playing possession football that can switch on the pace at the point of attack when needed. The side that we've got at the moment are a bit of a mix and match. We've mentioned Joe Bryan and the weaknesses, defensive weaknesses across the left. We saw that Saturday with the easy goal really conceded, as John says. I imagine that we'll be looking for changes in those kinds of areas. Murray Wallace is great in his way, but I probably would be picking him, to be honest, because I'm not sure we're getting that much more from Joe Bryan going forwards than we would get with dear old Murray. Certainly Murray would give you more of a solid defensive presence. Yeah, leadership. Jake, I think, is a lovely bloke. From what little I know of him, I don't know him at all. But, you know, I've seen the stuff on the club's TV channel. He seems like a very decent boy. Whether he's a leader, the kind of bastard that you need sometimes to drive things on, is another question. That's going to be something that we find somewhere along the line, or we won't, in which case failure will beckon. But yeah, great stuff there by John Rankin. Big thank you there, mate. Let's have a listen now to Big Paul. Big Paul.
Hello, Nick, mate. How you doing? It's been a while. I'm starting to think now, as the games have gone on, the jury's out for me a little bit with Joe Edwards. I might get fucking pelters for saying this, but I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. I think he's a little bit, maybe a bit out of his depth with some things. Very good coach, but is he a good manager? I don't know. It's one of them, mate, you know. He talks a good fight, you know. But really, mate, you know what? I'm a firm believer. Actions speak louder than words, you know. And we need points. We need to start winning games, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we got some loans in. Looks good. I don't know if that's Joe or that's Aldo, whatever his name is. Yeah, I can see what he's trying to do. Yeah, it's great. You look for the first, same as the Middlesbrough game. The first 20 minutes looks, mate, we look amazing. The crowd's going, and then all of a sudden it's like we forget everything we've been told. They've been told. You know. And listen, if you're explaining things to players that maybe just ain't good enough, do you know what I mean? Smart enough, then yeah, all right, that's the thing. But when you've got to know your room, ain't you? Really, you've got to say, right, okay, maybe they're not good enough for that. Do you know what I mean? It's like trying to get. Listen, you ain't going to get lads down the fucking Georgian Dragon pub to start playing like Brazil, are you? Let's be honest. Let's get them doing what they can do. So maybe he needs to acknowledge that, see who can play what, because I don't think it's working. Like I said, the jury's out for me. Talks well, yeah, oh, great. You know what I mean? Each week, yeah, we can do better, we should do better. Yeah, really, mate, we need to stop winning games at the end of the day. Anyway, onwards and upwards, come on you Lions and all that. Oh, mate, I'm fed up with watching that shit.
Cheers, Paul. I hear you, mate. I hear you. I mean, I don't really have an answer to the question that you're posing there, essentially, which is Joe Edwards good enough? None of us really know the answer to that question, and Paul makes a good point that there's coaching, which is one thing, isn't there? Improving a player on the privacy of the training ground and 1-to-1 and in the gym and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing. Then there's match day management, which is a different ball game. I mean, how many great managers would necessarily be great coaches? I don't know, because there's a motivational aspect to it, and there's a calling decisions in game time. I mean, I was surprised, if I'm going to be upfront with everyone listening, not to see Casper Denor and Jules Saville start. If they're fit enough to sit on the bench, they've got to be fit enough to at least start the first half and get us a little slice into the second before maybe then you might have to switch to Billy, and if one or other them's pulling up short or whatever. But the creativity that we badly missed was sitting on the bench, so that surprised me. What's he like as a person, 1-to-1? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, do they? This is the kind of thing that can transform a football manager's career, to be a good man manager. I mean, look at the likes of Neil Warnock, for example. How good a coach is Warnock, and how good a motivator. He seems to be a brilliant motivator. I understand what you're saying, Paul. Myself, and this is pure personal opinion, I think you hit the nail on the head with asking the dog and duck to start playing, Dutch technical football or whatever whichever analogy you want to use. So I get what you're saying, and I don't think the current squad is truly capable of sustaining a 90-minute performance of that kind of style. So it may well be that we have to tailor the approach until certainly we get safe in the Championship, and then we can start to perhaps experiment a little bit more. But that's my view. I do approve of what he's trying to do. I think if you step back and say what kind of football would you want to watch, and traditional Millwall football has always been perhaps more basic, I suppose. I don't know. I like watching decent football, and we're aiming to play decent football. We do need more players that can do it. We don't really have enough at the moment, and that's where we're falling short. We're not in any immediate danger. Just looking at the table, as Paul was speaking there, obviously that was a point closer to the mystical 50-point mark. No one actually says that you're safe at 50, but in generally speaking, you are. So with 17 more points, so we need to scratch a few more wins out from the season somehow, and let's see what changes come from the remainder of the transfer window, because I think all the issues you've touched on there, Paul, will be helped. Won't be solved, but will be helped by someone that can put the ball in the back of the net more often than what we're seeing at the moment. Let's see. Okay, big thank you, Paul. Let's go on now to Australia. Let's go to sunny Perth with Dave Baccarini.
Nick, Dave here from sunny Perth in Australia, the most isolated city in the world. Or that's what the tourism brochures say. Anything, onto more important matters, and the Preston game. 4 points to make. First one is to do with Joe Edwards' team selection. I left my message last week saying I was disappointed that Joe didn't change the team at half-time against QPR, and we played an unchanged poor performance in the second half. So when I saw the team selection for the Preston game, it was basically unchanged. Tanganga obviously in for Danny, and Long went in for the injured Watmore, but really I would have liked to see more changes, particularly in midfield, but we'll come on to that. Point number 2 is about our defence. The last 4 games we've let in silly goals. Bryant was at fault, as he has been in previous games, of being far too forward when we had the ball in our final third, and the misplace by Tanganga, and the goal was scored by their right wing-back, Potts. Surely Bryant should have been tracking him. Still on the idea of the poor defence, our good run of no goals in 4 was built on a strong defence. But the last 4, we've let in 9 goals, and many of them unavoidable. I really think we should be dropping Bryant for Murray Wallace in the games in February, which I'll come on to. Point 3, the games in February. Look at this. We're away to Hull, Coventry, Southampton. Any points there? And we're home to Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich. I think we're going to be lucky to get 4 points out of all of that. So only getting 1 point in the last 2 games, 1 point in 6 against QPR and Preston, I think we're going to look at that as a seriously missed opportunity. Again, we're going to need a strong defence against these tough February fixtures. Drop Bryant. And point 4, I've been fairly negative so far for us optimistic Aussies. So point 4 is some of the players who played really well yesterday. I thought Sav and especially Dinor looked really good in midfield. Esse actually looked quite solid given 45 minutes, and I'd have him off from the start next week. And Fleming had probably one of his best games. So some good, some bad. Come on, you Lions.
Cheers, Dave, and happy Australia Day for last week, mate. Joe Bryan. He's been mentioned a few times across this show, and I'm with you, to be honest. I would have played Murray Saturday, to be honest, because the performance of Joe Bryan at QPR wasn't good, was it? And we are shipping a lot of goals, and we do need to find some points from somewhere. I mean, I keep talking about this 50-point mark. We're not far short of it, but that means we've got to concede less goals than we score. We don't score many, do we, dear listeners? So I think Wallace would probably, in my world, I'm with you, Dave, come in for Bryan. We do have some tough fixtures, Hull and Coventry. And the Coventry's a morning kick-off. That's a TV game, so that's going to be a tough one. Southampton away is not going to be easy either. So we've got to find some steel from somewhere. And we've got to try and reduce the defensive mishaps from some method or not. I don't know. I'm looking at the injury lists and the returning possibilities in February. The News at Den had a list of returning players. I think there we are. Found it. So Sean Hutchinson is back mid-February potentially. Ryan Leonard maybe mid-Feb. Imarku would be a useful addition. He's looking at the Coventry game, so that would be a useful game to target, and also Tom Bradshaw. So I'm hoping that our squad will find a little bit more strength as if they're not 100%, at least to come off the bench for periods. Make you right about Saville and Denor, and the team that closed out the half, Dave, I thought Saturday was looking a much better prospect, and I'm hoping we're going to see some of those players starting at Hull City on Saturday. But a big thank you to Dave, all the way from Perth, the most isolated city in the world. It's supposed to be, isn't it? It's supposed to be a long way from anywhere in Perth. Let's have a listen now to Matt Richards and then Matt Webb. We have the two. I always seem to put the two Matts together, don't I? I've got to break that habit, but not this week, listeners. Matt Richards, then straight after him, Matt Webb.
Hello, Nick. Matt Richards, driving back after the game. Disappointed with a point. We were by far the better team. It wasn't a great performance, but definitely that second half, we were all over them. And in that possession, we had, we probably should have created more clear-cut chances or taken some chances. So that's disappointing, really. I think first half performance was just poor. I thought for definitely the last 20 minutes. First goal, good start. Happy with that. You think, well, come on, let's push on. But then it started feeling a bit like the Borough game, where suddenly we let them back in. Defensive mistakes, and there was another defensive mistake again from Joe Bryan, who just, I'm. It's wrong to put blame just on one player, but you've got a player there who's playing left wing back. You just can't get back if he's over the halfway line. He just can't get back, and it almost seems as if he's not even trying. He's just jogging back, and I'm sure he is trying, or maybe, I'm sure he is, but it's just not good enough, really. And we've been caught out down the left too many times. And after that, we just lost our heads in the first half, and we were lucky to come in 1-1, really. And yeah, chatting to Joe Zampa and Chris Chaps at half time on that Millwall pod, and we're kind of agreeing really needed to be changes. And it was I suppose Longman was injured anyway, so it's probably less of a tactical change. But good to see Romain Esse coming on. Bit surprised he came on, really, but I think it was great to see him because like most people want to see, give him more time, give him a chance. I thought he did okay, and then I think with Saville and Denor coming on as well made a big difference. Honeyman's done really well, and Billy's been doing okay, but they've got, definitely Denor. Denor is by far our best midfield player. He's got the touch, the control, the calmness, and he'll play your first time ball when we haven't got any other midfielders like him. If we're going to play possession-based football, we need to have him in the centre of the pitch. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on. Billy Mitch, Honeyman, they can scrap, they can bite, but he's got the class in the middle. So I think that helped us. I don't think it was an amazing performance. There's a couple of scrambles off the line, weren't there, from corners, and Sab had a shot, Fleming had a shot. There's a couple of balls over. I think Nisbet could have gambled on that ball which Norton Cuffy flashed over. Lots of ifs and buts and maybes. More like a workman-like performance, really, second half. Definitely by far the most dominant, we're dominating the game, which makes it disappointing, really. We that to me felt like a 2-1 win to us, really. I know they had a chance towards the end, but they didn't really do much. So I'm feeling quite positive. It's good to see Tanganga come in. I thought he did okay. I know he gave the ball away for the goal, but you can see he's got a bit of class there. He's got the mobility to run up and down. That's good, and it's good to see Obafemi coming in as well. So I think there's positives to take forward. We've got a couple of tricky games now, but if we can get all the players fit, match fit, play the right team, Obafemi, if he can get back to match fitness as well, it's the team's looking stronger, and that's what we want. We just don't want to, we want a bit of mid-table mediocrity this season. Will do us nicely, get us nicely poised for a summer transfer window. for Joe to get some more players in, use his contacts, phone up Jose, Thomas Tuchel, all of them, and then we look ahead with more positivity to next season. But yeah, that was better today. So we'll take it forward to the next game. Cheers, Nick.
Afternoon, Nick. Matt Webb here on my Sunday walk with the dog, giving you my Sunday thoughts on the game. And I'm be totally honest with you, I was not happy with the fact that we've only got a point out of that game. We've got a heavy run of fixtures coming up in the month of February, and they are minging. Okay, there's a word for it, minging. We are going to struggle to, in my opinion, get some points from February with some of the games that we've got. And yesterday, for example, was an opportunity to like give ourselves a little bit of space between the lot down at the bottom and cement ourselves more in the mid-table area. I can, however, on a balance and positive side of things, I still can see the transition, and I can see the players now that Joe Edwards wants to play and how he wants to play. I think Millwall at the moment are roughly about 50-50 in terms of the starting 11 playing the way that he wants and the players that play like the old regime. What I mean is quick on the ball, aggressive, can play football on the feet, touch is good, and a willingness to drive and just pass their way through, build up possessional. Not saying that the other 50% of the old regime played badly, however, they're just not as quick as what Joe wants, okay? And I do mean that sincerely. So there's no dig at the players through our mindset of the old regime, but they need to speed up their process, I think, in their skill and their decision making and how they play. Onto the game. Great, I'm glad to see Fleming get a good goal. He loves scoring against Preston, and maybe that's the reason why he might want to go to Burnley, or Burnley went in after him, because he knows how to wind up the Preston faithful. I've got a couple of players that I just want to point out. One of them is Kevin Nisbet. Now, I've said that I like Nisbet and I still think he's a good player, but he needs to, I think, needs to adapt to the Championship's pace quicker than what he is at the moment. And I mean that in all due respect for Scottish Premiership football, so apologies to any Scottish listeners out there. It's not the pace of the Championship, and you can score a fair few goals during the in the Scottish Prem, but you need to come down to the Championship and adapt quickly so that you're up to speed. That will take time. Also, you've got to think about relocation and settling, etc, etc. So I do get that, but now it's the second half of the season and we should be seeing that more. He's got this opportunity where strikers are out injured, and he's got someone now in Obafemi who is a classier player than him, better player than him. So he's got a chance to shine now. So it's make or break for Kevin Nisbet. There was a chance in the second half where Norton Cuffy put a lovely crossfield ball in, right on the edge of the 6-yard box. That's bread and butter. That's a dream for a striker to tap that in, but wasn't there. And that's where the likes of Bradshaw would have been. And you know what? That's his part of his game that he needs to really play. But then he played on the left side of a free in the first half, I felt, and I did okay. He linked up well, but he needs to put the ball in the back of the net. That's his job role. Second player I want just to point out is Joe Bryan. Now, again, the goal came down the left-hand side, and there was a second goal opportunity where, again, Potts outpaced him, and if it weren't for Sarkic spreading himself, making himself big, made a good save, could have been 2-1. Now, like most fans, I think, of the club, when we signed Joe Bryan, it was like a very good signing. And you know, we was really pleased for it, and we apparently beat off some competition. But when you look at it from a sort of like a wider perspective was that he was good in a Fulham team where you would say 75% of Fulham's play in the Championship was attacking, 25 was defending. So it was all attack, and we were on the we was on a few results that season, or a couple of seasons when we had Fulham, where you can exactly see that. So attacking wise, yes, Joe Bryan is a good player, but then he never got a look in at Fulham when they went to the Premier League. Why is that? Because Fulham would have had to change their philosophy of not 75% attacking, probably more 40% attacking, more defending. And they could see that Joe Bryan wasn't a player that could defend. And I think that's where, again, he needs to adapt his game so that he can be more 50% defending now, 50-50 with Millwall, because we're not all out attack. We are defending still. We are still a mediocre slash small, literally under mediocre team in the Championship, especially with some of the teams we've got in there now, and budgets especially. So I think he just needs to be coached. Okay, we've got defensive coaches, so he needs to be coached how to defend. Because at the moment, I don't feel any trust that when they're an opposition team or an attacker down the right wing, that we will defend that well. That's why I think bringing him out of the limelight for the next few games and bring back Murray Wallace might be the wise option. So that's my take on it, and I just want to finish up with tremendous. I went down to see the revealing of the sign and the road, and it was a lovely gesture. Well done, Millwall Football Club. Okay, and you know what? John Belson Way will be. I've even stuck it in my Google Maps now, just so that I can drive there, and I will. It was such a fitting tribute for a wonderful man. So we move on off to Hull. It's going to be tough, but then every game at the moment is tough, and we just need to ensure that we can put in the effort and get something out, because as I said, February is a minging month, but we'll all be there and we'll all be cheering them on. So come on, you Lions.
I'm going to nick minging fixtures as my new catchphrase, Matt. I like that one. I haven't used that word for a long time. Minging, good one. Big thank you to the two Matts, Matt Richards and Matt Webb there. Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with much of what the two boys are saying there. It reflects, I think, the consensus across the show. Joe Bryan's an interesting character in some ways, because I think he's both a very good forward-looking player, and like you often find in a modern game, good forward defenders, but not very good defending defenders. So it's a strange truth in the modern game. So anyway, big thank you to everyone that's contributed to the show this week. I think we're reaching the end of the line now, but I'm going to finish off with, before we go to Bobby BT, our final message on this week's show, I'm going to give you the answers to our two Pundit Games questions, dear listeners. I asked at the start of today's show, punditgames.co.uk, number one football trivia game. Check it out for your birthday needs over the year ahead. But this is a question from the English Premier League 1990s, a legend on Tyneside, former captain of Newcastle, moved from Charlton, 300 appearances at St James's Park, 44 goals, was in the PFA team of the year. It is, of course, Robert Lee. And the other question, which I think is pretty straightforward, in my humble opinion, a Championship specialist, a huge front man, lethal in the air. Brighton and Crystal Palace fans will testify. He now works as a pundit for Sky TV and held the record for Championship goals scored in one season. It is, of course, Glenn Murray. Glenn Murray, dear listeners. Check out punditgames.co.uk for your football quiz trivia board games for the summer ahead. So we're going to close out the show today. Big thank you to everyone for contributing. Big thank you to Bobby BT for this final message. I will be back with you, dear listeners, with a contribution after the Hull game on Saturday. So until then, from me, Nick Hart, it's Arrivederci Millwall. We'll close with Bobby BT.
Good afternoon, Nick. Bobby T here. I'm just saying this before. I'm on South Bermondsey platform, and I've just seen the team news. Tanganga, yes. Sorry for my language. How the fuck we go from losing 2-0 to QPR and Savile and Denor on the bench, and our striker, who we just signed, on the bench not starting, and Nisbet? Just don't get it. Take care, Nick. Enjoy the game. Fuming. Good evening, Nick Hart. This is Bobby T. As you can hear my voice deflated. Anyway, I messaged you earlier on when I got to the station, and I saw the team lineup, and not fuming, but after the QPR result, you would have thought, like, change the team. It didn't even start with Michael Obafembi, whatever his name is. Like, the guy's quick hot. Anyway, so yeah, let's get back to the game. Frustrated again, 2 points dropped. First half an hour. Okay, let's start 5 minutes on the clock. Yes, I have criticised Fleming a lot and all that. And I'm going to say today, yeah, he tried in moments. I mean, yeah, did you see his touch on 30-minute water touch? My son would have scored that header, free header. Anyway, I had to calm down. So I said to everyone around me, let's calm down. 1-0, same old Millwall. First half an hour we were amazing. Like Tatanga, right? The back four of Millwall, right? Tatanga, Champions League winner. Wetheldinho, Joey Bryan, solid left back. Our back four for the first half an hour were up to scratch, amazing. And Brooke Norton Cuffy, magical in the first half, yeah? This is all in the first 30 minutes. Just like Middlesbrough at home again. Did we shot ourselves in the foot, though, in 33 minutes? Was it Joe Bryan's mistake? No, apparently it was Tatanga. What happened? Shot our foot in itself again. Yeah, sorry, Nick. Yeah, so, where was that? 30-minute mark, the goal. Against the other play, their only shot on target, right? So that really got to me when Tatanga made the mistake and all that, and they got the only shot on target. So I'm thinking to myself, here we go again. Same old Millwall. And you know what, Honeyman, half done puff, he played really well. And I think it's a red card, to be honest with you. Took him off, obviously. But him and Billy Mitchell are keeping not Denor out of the side and Savile, because let's be honest now, they came on, was it, I don't know, 60-minute mark, and they changed the game, both of them. Did you see Casper Denor's first touch? The through ball, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Them two have to be in the starting lineup. As the game finished, that should be the starting lineup. Joey Edwards, again, Nick, you were on top of the stand, I was there. I'm frustrated because you know why? Michael Obafembi, whatever it is, 15 minutes he gets. The guy was really hot when he came on. I want to see Fleming now, up front now, with Michael Obafembi. I think I'm saying it right. But, again, Joey Edwards got it wrong. He should have started Sav and Denor. Full stop. Should have started them. Nisbet has had 2 chances. We're not going to get onto him. This was his last chance to loon. And for me, I'm sorry. Again, League One, Scottish League One player. He's just had chances anyway. Did you see as soon as Michael Obafembi came on, how quick he is? He's got to start the next game. We've got 2 different away games now, Nick, and then we're all faithful. 2 points dropped today. Really upset. I'm really down, heart-beated there. Referee should be sacked, full stop. I mean that. Ginger, I'm not going to swear on here. And Ramona Esse, second half, we're all crying out for him to play it. And this is not criticising him because he's a great, upcoming, talented. But he's doing fancy tricks on the ball in the half-line step-overs at the wrong time, dilly-dallying with the ball, attack defenders. I mean, people are going to say he changed the game and all that because he came on, we're all shocked. We're happy, yeah. But he didn't, Nick, he didn't, run at them. He just started doing step-overs. I think he thinks he's Cristiano Ronaldo. But I think to go out alone would suit him. Man of the match, Fleming. Guys, what are you watching? I thought Joey Bryan had a solid game until his mistake, whatever. I mean, Cuffy obviously disappeared second half. Not Fleming. I don't know. Sartic, I don't know. Anyway, going forward now, QPR win tomorrow is 6. So for me, this is not even nail biter. This is 18. There's still 18 games to go, but today should have been a win, and it wasn't. Next 2 away games now are tough. Michael Obafembi has got to start both away games, and let's pray Huddersfield win tomorrow. And yeah, sorry, mate. The last thing I'm going to say, it was a game of two halves. The referee was shocking. For me now, 2 points dropped, and I just don't really know where to go from here. I'm deflated now. Ipswich is going to be hard. Hull away and Coventry away. So 2 points drop at the Den. John Burns saw a lovely, a beautiful road and all that name after him. And yeah, that's my weekend. I wouldn't say ruined, but really upset, really. And I just think Gerald's got it wrong now. So Sav's got to start next game. And Denor, Danny Mack, obviously. Tatanga's Champions League, we all know that. And he had a bit of a bad second half. But the first half, our back four looked good, but one shot on target, Preston. They didn't deserve the draw. Good night. Bye for now. Come on, you Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.